welcome back to another edition of the Creator's Checkup. My name is Alan C. Paul. I'm host and founder of God and Gigs, and I appreciate you being here. If you're watching on replay, you are so welcome. You are so in the right place at the right time as a faith-focused artist, creative, one of members of our 360 creator community. However you found it, I'm glad you're here. I want to get right into today's presentation because there's a lot I want to cover. We have a cool, really detailed step-by-step talk about whether God is calling you to start a podcast. And as someone who has felt that call and answered that call multiple times, I now can kind of say, hey, there's definitely a difference when God is calling you and when it's more of a, I just feel like it, everybody's doing it, my business requires it, my creator business feels like it needs a little jolt, so I'm going to start a podcast. All of those, I'm not saying those are bad reasons, by the way. I want to make sure it's clear. Like, we should follow God's will in everything. But I think it's a special call when God is specific and calling you to start a podcast. And that obedience, that ability to walk into that could be a major way that you could fulfill, as I have seen in my life, fulfill God's call on your life in a whole new way that you could never imagine, honestly. I could have never imagined where podcasting has taken my career and my life and even my walk with God in so many different ways. The way I'm talking to you right now is really because I accepted that call, and I want to help you if you feel God is calling you to start a podcast, especially on the details. But we also want to talk to our community. We have so much we want to cover. So those of you watching on replay, make sure you comment, make sure you like, please subscribe. Once again, I know not everybody, we did this poll inside of our community about whether or not this was a good time to do our creator checkups. And honestly, the feedback was, well, yes and no. So many of you said you can not necessarily be here at 11, but you watch the replays anyway. And you didn't say change the time, which was interesting because I thought, I was like, well, if you can't make it live, maybe I should change the time. But most of you said, yes, let's keep it at 11. And I think what that means is you like the consistency of the time. I think people don't necessarily want to be, well, I can make it at 5, I can make it at 6, I can make it at on Saturdays. So I believe that's what that poll kind of told me inside the app, that you would like to have consistency in the time. So if you are off for early lunch break, if you are able to come in on a holiday, and then of course, as I mentioned, those who are watching replays most of the time, you already are in the habit of watching the replays. So all of that to say, I totally get it why many of you answered and said, let's just keep it at the same time. That being said, I also would love to have more of our community joining live. So I'm going to keep experimenting. Okay, we're experimenting with different looks, different times. Everything's about serving the community. So let me jump right in and make sure we can get today's, let's see if I opened it first. I believe I opened it, but I don't think I opened it. So let's make sure we get today's actual conversation going. Oh, there it is. All right. So give me a second. Got to always click around a little bit to get everything running and up to speed. But now we got it, I believe. Here we are. And let's do share. I always appreciate it. And by the way, I'm going to say it because there's so many cool things happening right now. I want to start commenting on everything, but I'm going to try my best to stay put and don't jump the gun until we're ready to get started. All right, now we should be looking at everything. And yeah, one of the things I was going to mention is that I am trying out a little cleaner background. You might notice normally I have the background, but let's see how this looks. Trying out some different things. If you like it, if you don't like it, the angle, if you feel like I'm a little too far away from the camera, we're just going to try some new things. And one of the things about doing this replay is, for many of you, you're seeing this later and you can tell me hey, this didn't really flow right. This look kind of threw me off. So I want your comments, even if you're watching this later. Okay. So kind of go quickly through our agenda. Welcome to our new members. Lately on the podcast, new in the Creative Resource Center, what's coming up in there. We have some new things that are available. And then speaking submission to podcast movement, I want to get your help with something that I will announce. I don't even have a slide for that, but I want to get your help with something that would be a huge favor and a big, 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 big step of faith for me in my own professional speaking career. And then our vital signs, which is why you're probably here today. Is God calling you to start a podcast? We're going to answer that question. Secondly, identifying in your lab work who's in your audience, because there's a tool that I'm using now that's helping me figure out exactly who is in my audience and what they need and what they are all about, which is huge. And it's an eye opener to see who exactly is following you, who's on your email list, and to be able to like actually serve them and connect with them. Like that's something that Kit is blowing my mind with. As you all know, that's our preferred in the email first operating system for our creator business that we've been using forever. So that's what we are going to talk about in lab work. Consult, what skill do you wish you had learned earlier in life? This is a fun question we kind of pose as part of our creator challenge for the month inside of our app. And then we get into our prescriptions, which is what we are basically recommending. And of course, this week, simple, join the 360 membership. That's our suggestion for everyone. So we want to welcome our 360 creators, especially our newest members. I want to say welcome to Linda. If you didn't see this earlier, Linda, it is so cool to have you now commenting, joining in the conversations, telling us about your writing, telling us about what you are hoping to gain from being a part of 360, especially since you joined with the Gold program. So we'll give you more information about our Gold connection calls. That is coming up very soon. We're formatting things different, so I want to make sure that you never feel like you're out of the loop. Sometimes it just takes me a second to kind of get all the information out. As you can see, there's a lot going on, but I will never leave our members out of the loop. So Linda, want to say again, welcome to Kimberly and to Vanessa and everybody that has joined in the past, I guess, 6 months. We've had a lot of new members, and of course, got to say hello to everybody that has been a member for a long time. Manuel, to Simony, to Charmaine, everybody, Anita, you guys. If I miss a, see, that's where I get in trouble. If I miss a name, I'm going to get in trouble. So please forgive me if I missed a name. All of you are special. All of you are important. Every single member. But I want to say especially welcome to our newest members at 360. If you want to join them in 360, which is our app, our community, our accountability place where all of this stuff is happening, you can go to godandgigs.com/membership. Okay, that is where you go. Let's make sure the phone is on silent. Sorry about that. So go to godandgigs.com/membership and you can join us. There are 3 ways to join us. I don't talk about all 3 all the time. One is the guest pass, which is free. Doesn't get you as much access, but it does let you try everything out, which is super cool. We had somebody join on our guest pass, which I love because now they get to be a part of the community without having to worry about any pressure about the membership in terms of the subscriptions until they're ready, and then they can join. Then we have our Creator Resource Center. That is where you can join in and get access to all of our replays, all of our trainings, all of our tutorials, everything that will help you run a successful, faith-focused, creative business. That is in the Creative Resource Center. That's where you want to be for everything that we share in terms of getting access. Okay, that's the access level. And then finally, there is God and Gigs Gold, which is our coaching program where you get super intimate, direct, one-to-one help with building the creator business that God has blessed you to build and wants you to build, and the creator lifestyle. Because again, for many of us, we're doing 2 or 3 different jobs. Doesn't mean you have to be a full-time creator to be in God and Gigs Gold. It just means that you are trying to build a fulfilling creator life and you want direct help with that. So that's where you get that. Okay, so with all of that, let's move on to our next section, which right now we're going to talk about what is going on. Whoops, wait, always clicking around. Wait, see, there we go. I find it. There we go. We're going to talk about what's lately on the podcast, and that is a discussion I had about what happened to me just a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3, it feels like longer, it feels like it was yesterday, but last month, when I experienced an issue with my wrist and my whole hand and nerves basically shutting off part of my arm, basically not being able to feel my hand. And as a pianist, you can probably imagine what a nerve wracking moment that was for me, including the fact that I had performances and recordings that week. Yes, I did play. There's actually a video on YouTube. If you look at my hand carefully at YouTube, I'm not going to ever show it to you, but if you look at my hand, I'm barely moving it. Like I'm basically trying to stay still with my right hand and play as little as possible because there was very, very little sensation that I had in my right hand. It was almost like I didn't know what keys I was playing. So just for that to happen really impacted my fear and my anxiety about what happens if there was something to happen to me, if I wasn't able to play, if I wasn't able to write, if I wasn't able to speak. If any of these things happen, what would God even do or help me to survive or help me to make a living? And that was something I wanted to face with you so that you can face your fears and be honest about how that faith can carry you through even when you're unsure. So that is episode 394. Thought I had a link here I can show, but I don't see it right now. Yeah, I can think I can edit this real fast. And I thought I saved it. So it's episode 394. Honestly, but if you're watching on YouTube, you can honestly just jump right back 2 videos and you'll see it right there. Okay, so this is the most recent video today. 1 video back and you'll see godandgigs.com/394, or you'll see the YouTube and you can join it. And of course, you can listen by going to that link on all streaming platforms. So blessed for all of our creative listeners who are checking out the podcast each week. And I got an incredible episode coming out next week. So please make sure you're subscribed here on YouTube. If you're watching on LinkedIn, jump in and let us know or figure out where to get. I don't figure out where to get silly. Get it at godandgigs.com/podcast. Why would I tell you where to figure it out? No, just I can tell you. All right, let's keep it moving. Up, almost skipped something. That looks so weird. Hold up, let's move this over. How can we move this over? That's a little better, okay? So today I want to also make sure you know about what's inside the Creative Resource Center. This is our workshop from last month, our email solutions workshop. And I always go back and forth with should I keep talking about email? But when I realize so many of the blessings I'm having in my creative career are because I cultivated an email list. Not big, not millions of subscribers, just people that I can reach and contact at any time without worrying about social media. So, yes, we're going to keep talking about email because it is a huge blessing to help you walk out your creative career with success. So this is available now in the God and Gigs Creator Resource Center inside our membership. Once again, pop it up one more time, godandgigs.com/membership. You can access that course. And by the way, I do want to continue working with individuals. We did this inside for one of our members and did a walkthrough and just showed her, hey, here's how you build a landing page for your, we literally walked her through page by page, step by step to help her use her kit account more effectively. And so we are willing to do that. So if you watch this and you're like, I need more individual help, I'm still a little mixed up, let us know. I would love to do one-on-ones with you guys. I just want to make sure that this is effective for you. And again, you can always join the membership, and that's how you can become a member and then get access to those one-on-one sessions as well. All right, so I think that finishes all of our news and notes. So we're going to go ahead and jump in to our vital signs, which is once again the key of today's topic. The key of today's live stream is whether God is calling you to podcast. So as a podcaster for so many years, this is near and dear to my heart. So I made a lot of notes. I made a lot of, not slides, but I definitely included a lot of details that I want you to be able to follow. And of course, we'll make sure this is available as a podcast later. We're going to actually repost this as a podcast, just this section. So if I don't stop, that's because I want to make sure that I get all of this, but we'll answer questions at the end if you have questions, or leave them in the comments if you're watching on replay so that I can answer these. Okay, I want to make sure no one is missing the basics, the 101 on getting started. Because if God's calling you to this, I want to make sure you get the information you need, which is why I was super detailed. So if you see a lot more lower thirds and things popping up, it's because I wanted to make sure I didn't forget anything. All right. All right. So let's get into today's vital signs. All right. So let's make sure at least everything's showing up. Okay. Everyone knows that when God calls you, you're supposed to answer. But when God calls you to do something scary, new, unfamiliar, or something that just feels bigger than you, there's a tendency to question, wait, God, did you really call me? Did you call me to do this? Did you call me for this purpose? Is this just my head, something in my head that I'm saying? Or is this really you? And nothing could be more confusing than when you hear a call to do something that you're unfamiliar with and you're not sure even how to start. And that is the way it is with most people when it comes to podcasts. Now, as a Christian creator, as a Christian content creator, as a Christian artist, I am already a musician. I was a musician long before I ever thought about podcasting. There was no podcasting back when I was growing up. And I don't think anybody in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, early 2000s, podcasting started right around then, but nobody was saying, I'm going to be a professional podcaster. There was no medium for you to even consider that. However, in the past few years, it has become one of the most powerful ways for people to spread a message, to build an audience, and to find their calling in terms of what and who they're supposed to serve. So I believe God really was in the beginnings and the purpose of podcasting. As a matter of fact, here's something really cool. I got a chance to hear from one of the co-creators and inventors of podcasting. And he said point blank, God gave him the idea. He was saved later on in life, which is amazing that God first saved him and that he turned his life over to God. And then God revealed, hey, podcasting, that whole thing was my seed, my implant of an idea and a way to reach the masses for my gospel to be spread all over the world. And now that is part of that co-inventor's business plan. It is part of his mission is to use podcasting to help spread the gospel. So from the beginning, you guys, podcasting was a part of God's plan. But is it a part of the plan for your life? Is God calling you to podcast? So the question is there. So I want to get into this and I want to make sure that I cover this with a lot of detail to make sure you are hearing the right thing, that you're not nervous, that you're not scared, that you're not feeling like this is not for me. It couldn't possibly be God calling me. This must be something that is just in my head. I want to give you the details of what to expect and how to know if God is calling you. But first, let's talk about why people delay. Why don't Christian artists, Christian creators, Christian entrepreneurs, why don't we believe that we should start a podcast at all? Why would we hesitate if we're feeling that nudge? Well, here's the first thing that comes up in people's minds why they think that they're not supposed to start a podcast. First of all, I'm sure you've heard this. You've heard that people say everybody's got a podcast. This is basically comparison. You're already comparing yourself to all the other people who have done a podcast, and you're thinking the keyword too saturated. Everybody's already doing it. I'm too late. Whatever the idea is, if God is kind of putting that nudge in my heart that I should start, it's too late. Here's the problem with that thinking. First of all, let's just look at the facts and the data. If you're listening to this on any app, this is probably part of maybe 400 to 500,000 potential podcasts that you could listen to. And it sounds like a lot, right? Your app is full of them. However, if you look at just YouTube, there are millions of channels. and people still start YouTube channels. There are millions of books, and people still write books. There are millions, I'm sure maybe there's hundreds of thousands, I'm not sure the name in terms of movies or TV shows, but you get my point. There are so many creators making things in these other niches, yet podcasting is relatively small in comparison to other mediums where so many people are creating them. And we don't tell people don't write books. Oh, books are done. No one's writing books anymore. Or there are too many books. Or there are too many movies. Or there are too many TV shows. Or there are too many songs. People just don't say that. And even if they realize that there's a lot of people competing, they don't throw away their dream, especially if God called it to them. So there's the data side. Podcasting is not saturated. There are still only about 500,000 active podcasts. So many people start them and then stop that if you stay in the game for more than a couple of months, a few episodes, you're already in the top 10% of shows. So just setting that low bar and saying, hey, even if I make it to 15, 20 shows, I have made it in terms of being in this top area of podcasts that actually stuck with their craft, stuck with their idea. Secondly, let's just talk about the God factor. Do you think God doesn't know that there's many other podcasts? Do you think God was nervous that you were going to get lost in the sea of podcasts? Or is the idea he's planting in you unique to you? Has he only given this particular way of sharing, the way of presenting this idea, this concept, these thoughts, this entertainment, this enlightenment, this inspiration, this education? Has he given it to you? Then who cares how many other people are doing it? Jeremiah says it very well. When he says, I knew you before I was in my mother's womb, God speaking to Jeremiah. God knew already how you were formed and what you were formed for. And you are a unique creation in God, and nobody can replace that. So that everybody's got one argument, let's just throw that out. Okay, let's keep it moving because there's so many other things that could stop people. Another one could be, I don't know how to start. And yes, podcasting is a discipline, a craft. It is, for many, a business. It is a skill. So not knowing where to start and what to buy can be a fearful subject because you just think, oh my gosh, I either buy all this equipment or I have to be technical or I have to spend a bunch of time or I'm going to have to be on social media and marketing it or all the fears and the what ifs and how do I's pop up in your mind. But once again, God has not called you to a spirit of fear. 2 Timothy. You have power, love, and a sound mind. You can learn this. So people always hesitate and they slow down because they feel like this is too much to learn. I can't do this right now. I've already got other responsibilities. But if God is calling you, he's going to grace you with the ability to be able to do the podcast that he's calling you to do, not what you feel is the overwhelming amount of work that you're not able to do. And a third reason that a lot of Christians and believers don't step into podcasting is this idea. Very similar to the first one. My idea isn't important or worthy. You get self-doubt because once again, you feel like nobody's going to listen. There's so many other shows and my idea is just, it's just a little thing. It's just me talking about what I'm passionate about. No one's going to care. No one's going to listen. And that's the self-doubt that starts creeping in. But that's a voice from the enemy. If God is calling you, again, think about Moses, who kept saying, I'm a stutterer. I'm no longer worthy. And yet God was like, I called you to go back and to rescue and to deliver the Israelites. I'll handle all of your limitations. I'll handle all of the things that you say will keep you from being worthy. And you just trust me and go do what I've called you to do. So those delaying tactics, those delaying voices in your head of why you shouldn't start a podcast, all have an answer from God. And they have an answer even in the landscape of podcasting, where we see the data and we see that there is room, so much room for quality shows and quality messages and people who love God and want to put their idea forth. And let me quickly say this because this is God and Gigs. We're not only talking about a Christian themed podcast. As you'll see, as I talk about this more throughout this quick conversation. So I'm trying to get to so much that'll help you. This does not mean that every show has to be a Christian podcast. It could be run by a Christian, but there's so many ways that you can bless people even outside of the four walls of the church or ministry podcast. So, how do you know when God is calling you to podcast? That is the question for today. So here's how you can figure out, is this call just something in my head, or is this really something that God is speaking to me about? Well, first of all, I hope you're in prayer and this is something that automatically comes to you, that you want to pray about this. But as you are praying, these are the things that should start to resonate with you. And you'll realize, wait a minute, this is not my idea. This is God's idea. First of all, you'll realize that it keeps coming back. The idea will not go away. And this is confirmation, not just from your own idea popping back up in your head, but other people mentioning it to you. Other people saying, oh my gosh, if this is a comedy idea or an entertainment idea, you are so funny. I wish I could listen to you say this or do this. Many times people will say those words, you should start a podcast. But the difference is when people say it, not just because they just want to listen and they think that you're funny, but when you are realizing that God has been calling something out of you that they are confirming, and you probably have been running away from it. You probably have been saying, I don't know. People won't really agree. They'll find fault. And you will be trying to disagree or run away from the confirmation that other people are bringing you, and yet it will not go away. Think about Samuel in the Bible when God called Samuel. 3 times Samuel got up and his master inside the priest that was over him, his mentor, said, go back to bed twice. It was the 3rd time that Eli realized, oh my gosh, God is speaking. So sometimes you need those repeated reminders that this is God speaking, and those confirmation from other people who really believe in what you're sharing and what you could say is the evidence that God is calling you to the podcast, not just yourself. I can give a personal example right here, because God and Gigs is entirely about me wanting to get away from this idea and not being able to get away from it. Starting to write a book about Christian musicians and realizing, wait a minute, I want to just let this be, but I can't, because musicians keep coming up to me after the gig. Musicians keep saying, I wish there was a resource. I wish there was someone talking about this. I wish there were people that were talking about how to blend my artist career with my faith. I wish there was that. And people kept asking. And finally, it was like, okay, I can't keep running from this. And the same thing happened with other shows that I've helped launch. The problem was there, and the confirmation kept coming. And it wasn't going away until we actually followed through and be obedient with what God was calling. The second, and goes right along with that, the idea just isn't about you. It serves others. It solves a problem, and it fills a need. This is so important when you realize that God's calling you, because God doesn't call you just for you. He calls you for a purpose, to serve, to bless, to find his will inside of the path that will actually lead you to the purpose that you are called to. So your podcast idea, your idea of starting a podcast, is a calling to someone. And it's not just a selfish need to build your following, to just build your business, to just get more people listening to you, your voice. You'll realize that God's calling when it actually is about other people. And again, there's nothing wrong with growth. You should be trying to grow things like the parable of the talents. You should be doing more with what God gives. So I'm not saying that just growing your business is not evidence that God is calling you. But at the core of his call is a purpose for something greater and someone beside yourself. And when you realize your podcast is really about blessing others, whether it's through entertainment, enlightenment, whether it's through inspiration, education, whatever your actual theme of your podcast is, when you realize that you actually have a desire to help others more, to love your neighbor as you love yourself through serving your podcast, that will be evidence that God is actually calling you, that it's not just an idea of your own. The third reason is it's aligned with what you're passionate about. Your idea should not just be out of thin air where you're doing something or trying to talk about something or doing a podcast about something you've never talked about before. Now, of course, God could do whatever, but most times He works with the design that he's already given you. And you will feel this connection. Now, that doesn't mean it'll always be comfortable to start a podcast about this subject, but it will be aligned with who you are, what you share, and why you feel so passionate about it that you'd want to share it with other people. This is exactly the case with the God and Gig show. It's exactly the case with the shows that I'm helping to launch with my church's podcast studio. Every single time it's been, hey, this is who we already are. This is what we already feel passionate about. We may need to learn some new things to be able to share this podcast correctly, to record the right way, to get the right feel and the music and all those things. Those details come along with time. But the actual alignment of why we're doing this, our why is sure. We are already about this. If we weren't doing a podcast, we would talk about this. So now we're just going to talk about this with our podcast. That's a clear sign that God is working with your alignment to bring out something that he wants to go into the world through a podcast. And finally, the fourth reason that you can know and be sure that God is calling you to start this podcast, and it's not just your idea, is that it requires greater faith on your part. This is huge. I've always said that when there's a fork in the road, when I'm not sure if God is calling me to do A or B, the easiest way for me to tell which one God is calling me to is to ask myself, which direction takes more faith? As I've said many times, sometimes it takes more faith to not do something. It takes more faith to say no. But then other times, it takes more faith to say yes. And when God is asking and calling you to start this podcast and you are feeling like, wow, I don't know what to start with. I don't know what to buy. This is a God problem that only God could have the solution for. Well, now you're on the right track of realizing that God is calling you to start this. You're not doing this out of your own desire. You're not doing this because you just want more people. You're doing this because you're realizing this will force me to depend on God more. And anytime you are leaning into your faith, leaning into your desire, when you realize that when you are weak, he is strong and that his grace is sufficient, that is a perfect example and evidence that God is calling you to start this podcast. So now that I've given you the delays and I've given you the reasons why people or why God is calling you, I want to make sure to talk about the practical things you can do to actually start. Because this is where a lot of us get hung up. So many people say, oh, okay, God is calling me. This idea won't go away. It's aligned. It's about other people. It's not just an idea that I just have in my head. But now, how do I actually get started? Well, I'm going to give you some basic principles that you can start with no matter what and no matter what your show is about. First of all, sorry about that. First of all, submit your plans in obedience and pray for wisdom. Our example is Solomon and Isaiah, both of them, when they were called to a huge task. They first said, "Here am I, send me." Yes, Lord. They answer with submission and obedience. And that's what you got to do. When you realize that God is calling you to start this podcast, you have to lay it down. You have to say, I don't understand. Maybe I don't know how this is going to go. Maybe this feels like it's way too big for me. But Lord, I will be obedient to your call to start this. And once again, this might be a soft nudge. It may not be a thunderous voice. Most times God's call is confirmation through other people, a faith leader, your tribe, people who are saying what your spirit is saying, but it's not this grand announcement. And you're just going to have to do the same thing when you submit this to God. You're going to say, whatever this is, I'm following you. And then you can pray for the wisdom on how to conduct and execute on what his will is for this podcast. Secondly, I want you to start gathering information. And this is about the actual subject matter that you're going to talk about. And here's what most people do wrong. They go into starting a podcast and they just turn on the microphone and they just go. Instead of saying, wait a minute, just because God gave me the idea doesn't mean that I can just jump in without organizing, without thinking through, what am I actually going to share? So what you need to do is map out 10 possibilities for your first 10 episodes. And just say, hey, if I only did 10 episodes, what would be a successful episode? What are topics that my friends in my industry, in my community, in this particular genre, this niche, what do they want to know about? What do they ask about? What do they want to hear most likely? You can talk to people. This is like market research. write them down, and then map out what would be 10 great episode titles and 10 ideas that I could start with. Once you start gathering the information and realizing, wait, I do have something to say, and I have a unique way to say it. And I don't have to be scared necessarily of the tech, which we'll get to later. I can know that I could at least do this many. So preparing in advance with just getting comfortable with the alignment and the vision and the information that you already know will make a huge difference when you actually start the podcast. Here's my third tip, and this is one that a lot of people don't realize you should do even before you start. Join podcast communities to learn. You would be so far ahead of the curve if you start hanging out with other podcasters before you start your show. I've seen people join the Podmatch movement, which Podmatch is something we are an affiliate of. It helps you find guests. If you're going to start an interview show, highly recommend you jump into Podmatch. You can find it at at godandgifts.com/Podmatch, because we are an affiliate, a proud affiliate. We've used them forever. Alex and the team and Alicia are so amazing over there, and believers as well. Now, you can join one of these communities as well as sign up for something like Buzzsprout and check out their Facebook community, check out their tutorials. There's so much stuff inside most of these podcast apps, including especially Buzzsprout, who does an amazing job with tutorials, and get into the world of learning about this skill and this craft of podcasting. It is not just like turning on a mic, and the more people you have around you and you're joining communities and you're learning and you're talking, you're going to be so much farther ahead. And then after you do that, my recommendation is record what I call MEEs or MEs, minimum effort episodes. This is where you are not trying to release anything right away. These are the first draft. And a lot of people don't do this. They just, again, start the podcast and then they wonder, why did no one listen the first couple of times? It's because your first ones are always going to be not that great. Your first episodes are always going to have glitches. Your first episodes are always going to be a little bit where you're learning your cadence, learning how to talk, learning what the intro is, what the outro is, all of that. And it's just so much easier just to get on a Zoom and practice and say, okay, here's one of our 10 episodes. Let's just try and see what we would talk about. And then throw it away, erase it, never let it see the night of day, or use it and kind of evaluate it. But don't go into this without recording some minimum effort episodes that don't take so much editing and worry and what's going to be thing. And then you release it and you're like, oh my gosh, like I would have made so fewer mistakes. Again, this doesn't mean you're not going to release. That's going to be the very, very next comment. But before that, I would recommend 2 or 3 just minimum effort episodes to try it out. And then once you kind of feel like you know where you're going with this, with equipment and with the very, very easy stuff that doesn't take any kind of marketing, then you go back and you release the first episode in obedience to God, whether you feel ready or not. So many people get stuck in perfectionism here. You don't want to get stuck in perfectionism. Go ahead and release the episode. You can't give God something that's still tightly in your fist and you're holding on to because you're nervous about what people are going to think. You have to release it and let God help you be the CMO, the Chief Marketing Officer of your podcast. Of course, you're going to have to do the things. Of course, you're going to share. Of course, you're going to tell your friends. Of course, you're going to learn about social media and clips and all that kind of stuff. But before you can do that, you have to release it. You got to let it out. You got to share it. Once you do that, you'll learn so much from the first few times that you have posted, that you've shared, and especially if you do this right and you listen to some of the feedback you'll get from the experts like Podmatch and Podfest and from Buzzsprout. Once you get all of that, you will then know which direction to go to continue to fulfill the call that God has on your life to podcast. So I believe God can call you to start podcasts. And if you do so with the right resources, with the right mindset, and most of all, starting with prayer and ending every moment, realizing that you are giving this idea back to God to help you steward it, to help you put it out to the people that will be blessed, that will be entertained, enlightened, and educated by your podcast. And remember, it doesn't matter how many shows are out there. There will be no one like your show because there's no one like you. You are uniquely called, uniquely gifted, and uniquely equipped by God himself. So whatever you put out, your podcast can be a reflection of that glory and that individuality that he's placed in you. Well, my friends, I hope that blessed you. We're going to jump into comments real quick and see if we have some friends that have joined us. We do have friends that have joined us. So feel free to jump into the chat if you have any questions about that segment. I am so glad that we were able to get into why God has called you to be a podcaster. I was called, and I didn't get a chance to get into a lot of my personal examples, but the fact that I was actually blessed and graced to not only start one show, but then to start a second one with my church, and then a third one that was gifted to our church, and then we were able to take over. And now a fourth one we started just last week. I mean, God has been so good to let me be a part of the vision of so many shows. And each time, and there's a fifth show that I started personally that I did decide to sunset. But absolutely just a blessing to be a part of seeing when God's like, hey, you have this idea, go do it. But you have to be willing to walk through it. So feel free to answer or ask any questions you have about podcasting. And I didn't mention this earlier, but I'll say it now because I forgot. I do have I do have a favor I'd like to ask you guys, and I need to find this link. I am being considered to speak at one of the biggest podcast conferences in the world, which is called Podcast Movement. So I would be so blessed if you would vote for me. Now, here's the cool thing. You do not have to actually join anything, no payment, no registration or anything like that. So I'm going to put this in the links. I don't know if you'll be able to click it in YouTube or LinkedIn. But if you can, I would love it if you would go to that link or maybe copy and paste it. Yeah, as you can see, it's super long, so I'm not going to put it on the stream because it just doesn't make any sense. But I would love to have your support with that because basically there's 50% of the people who are going to be selected by public vote, and there's 50% of the speakers that will be selected by committee. And this will be in New York in September. For anyone interested in podcasting, Podcast Movement is kind of like the mecca. Hate to use that word, but yeah, basically it's like the mecca of podcasting when it comes to anyone that's who's who in podcasting. There is PodFest, which I've been a member of for years, and I've gone to every single one since like 2022. I've gone to every conference in PodFest for Orlando. They are like the king and queen of the indie podcasting world. So I would definitely recommend PodFest for anyone starting off. But if you want to check out Podcast Movement, it's like getting to like the White House. Getting to PodFest is like getting to Congress, if I could put it like that. Congress is where everybody comes together. The White House is like all the big kahunas or whatever. So I don't know if that works. I hope nobody was offended by that from either organization. Maybe I hope that fits. So I would love to have your vote once again. You can check out that link, and I'll also put it in the comments. Anyone that, again, no need to register for anything. All you got to do is just click that link, say, yes, I like this session. It's open to anyone, whether or not you're going to Podcast Movement. We have Jeremiah's baby here that's saying, this was absolutely insightful. Thank you so much for sharing your ride here for us to grow. Oh, my pleasure. Oh my gosh. That means so much to me, honestly, because I just like anyone, I debate, just like I said, I have fears about whether or not this is the right thing to share, whether anyone needs this. But the fact is that I'm literally doing what I'm doing because I was called to podcast by God. And it wasn't necessarily my first choice. I would have rather stayed with books. Definitely would have rather stayed outside of live streaming and using video for podcasts. That part was like, oh, I don't want to do it at all. So the fact that like this was the way that God decided to use this skill and help me build this skill, that he was in it the entire time. I didn't know he was in it, but he was totally in it. So that makes the difference to me, knowing that this was a blessing to you. Thank you. And please, if you have any questions, I want to remember, in the Creator Resource Center, by the way, if you want to join GodAgainst.com/membership, there are 2 or 3 tutorials about podcasting that I've already done there, and some of my speaking that I've already shared the video of, on top of, letting you guys know when I'm going to be in conferences and all the free materials that I get access to. So I absolutely am trying to help podcasters inside God and Gigs 360. That's why the Creator Resource Center is there, because that's where I can put those resources, where I can house them, where I can host all those things. So if you want to join us, always feel free to go to the membership it is worth it for sure. But want to make sure we get the last 15 minutes in. I got a lot of these little details to get through, so I don't want to forget. So let's jump into, as fast as I can, our lab work, where I'll talk about what's working for me in my own business so I can share it with you. All right, here we go. All right. So, oh, wow. I didn't see that pop up, but I'm going to go ahead and pop it up because it just happened to be there. Just like literally, you know, I mean, I know I don't really technically need this, but since it's here, hold up. I got to flip this. What just happened? Why can't I flip it? There we go. So that is the website in case you were looking for that session that I just mentioned. I totally forgot about actually showing you the website, and I had it. So there it is. That's what you'll be looking for if you decide to vote for me in the podcast movement session voting. Okay. But now let me jump into the other thing, which is our slide, just to keep it looking good. So how can you tell exactly who's in your audience? This is for all of my Kit users, those who are thinking about using Kit. If you're interested in Kit, all you got to do is go to godandgigs.com/Kit to find the best email service provider I've ever used. It's one literally I've used almost my entire creator career. But here's the coolest thing that they're doing now. If you're interested, and that's where you can find it, godandgigs.com/Kit. So what's super powerful is, for years, you guys see your commercials, your ads, all these things. It's like people are like, oh, they're listening. Everybody knows. How do they know that I needed toothpaste? How do they know that I was looking for a vacation? How do they know? And of course, we all know that for the most part, almost everything tracks what we're doing. Okay, so that's the first thing. I want to make sure I kind of establish this so you don't think this is creepy when you get to know who's in your audience. You want to know who's in your audience, and businesses for years have traded our data to kind of just find out what we do, and just, even if they didn't necessarily have the details, they find out the demographics and they kind of know your income and whatever. They find out, and we are kind of like, we understand it. It's part of the game of business. We're never advocating privacy breakdowns, but we do know part of the whole point of business is having data on your customers. It's just part of it. And hopefully they help you to kind of make your own business work by sharing it. Kit has done something incredible, which is, let's make sure we're still showing here. Okay. Yeah. And I did not check on YouTube to make sure we are live on. But that's one thing, by the way, comments help me so much because it proves that we're actually going live on all of our different platforms. And I always get nervous if I see something glitch. I'm always like, are we actually going live? So I want to make sure I check to see if we're actually live, because that always drives me crazy. Last week, I think it was 2 weeks ago, we weren't even going live. Like something happened and it broke the stream. And that was very sad. Okay, we're live. Make sure. So what Kit is doing is now they're allowing you to see who's in your audience with this thing called subscriber signals. Now, I will go ahead and tell you up top, I was not going to sign up for this at first because it is the top tier of their subscriptions. However, once I got in it, it was like, I am absolutely going to use this, and I don't think I'm ever going to downgrade again. Here is what it does. What it does is it allows you to see which people in your email list are high influencers, have high subscribers, high followers on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. It tells you their demographics. And then, like I said, most of this is pulled from public information, their websites. So it's not like this is not available to you. You just don't know it because most of the time it's hard to track this stuff down. But subscriber signals is telling me, oh my gosh, this person has 100,000 followers on Instagram. Why wouldn't I say, hey, by the way, would you be interested in collaboration? You already joined my email list. This is the thing that blew my mind. Like, it's clear if someone has signed up for your email list, they are no longer like a cold, what they say, a cold lead or whatever. If someone joins your email list, that means at least for one moment they actually wanted to connect with you, which means now if you reach back out to them and say, hey, thank you so much for joining the list, I'd really love to serve you. Are there ways that we can partner? now it's a warm lead. It's more personable. It's we actually connected already. And so for the fact that Kit is making that available to us to be able to connect with people and see who would be a great fit for a collaboration, for a creative partnership, for a sponsorship. Just who would be a good buyer? Who's right on the edge of buying but they haven't bought yet. And I've been scared to like push a little bit, but now like, oh my gosh, they have this thing and they're trying to build it and you follow. This is all about what the Bible calls knowing your sheep and your flocks, which is a proverb. You know well the condition of your sheep. I'm not saying that your followers are sheep. I'm saying that they are part of the flock that follows you. You should know who they are. So I'm just going to put that pin in it right there. I'm not going to go deep into subscriber signals. If you want to learn more about subscriber signals, there is a link I can send to you if you want to connect with me inside the membership. You can always go to godandgigs.com/kit and get that. I think it's a 30 days free. I'm pretty sure it's 30 days free that I'm offering through Kit. That's our individual page. They actually were able to give me my own page, which says Alan C. Paul on it, which is super cool. So that's my page, and you get 30 days free if you go to godandgigs.com/kit. But remember, the subscriber signals is worth its weight in gold. And I did not think I was going to think that. I thought it was going to be like, okay, this is cool, but way too much for me. I don't have a huge list. I don't need this. And when I saw the data that it gave me, I was like, oh no, we're keeping this. Because one phone call, one email, one text to the right person could change everything. And if you just knew who that person was on your email list already, there is I think a book called The One Thing I just finished reading, but it's been out for a long time. And it talks about what's the one thing that would move the needle today? What's the one thing that would bring me closer? And I just do that one thing. And if I could tell you the one thing you could do is first build your email list, first start your email list, get Kit, start your email list as a creator. But then secondly, know who you're actually reaching and know what to send them when. That would change everything. Because if you connect with the right person, all the other problems become irrelevant. It's so powerful. All right. I wanted to leave with that. Let me know if you want more information about subscriber signals. I was just blown away. I said, I got to tell my friends about this inside of our community because it will bless them if they choose to follow through and step up to that section of Kit's offers. Okay. All right. One more thing you want to get to. This should be fun. All right. This last section is going to be fun. So I'm going to jump into it real quick because I'm rushing to finish before we're out of time. So let me find our media here on Riverside. If you guys are interested in Riverside, always check out godandgigs.com/Riverside so you can see how I'm doing all the streaming. But here we go. All right. All right. This should be fun. I wonder why it keeps jumping back to this. All right. This should be fun. So I want to know, as we are closing out, one skill you wish you learned earlier in life. So this is for our replay viewers as well. Because for the Creator Challenge for the month of July inside our membership, inside our app, we are asking each other to spend a month building a creator skill. Building on a skill either you already have or that you have like kind of let go to the shelf. You know, that you know you should be working on it. Let me see if I can move this. I'm always in the way. I'm always trying to figure out how I can move stuff around. I don't think I can move this one. So I'm just going to go to the side. All right. So I'm really curious about what skill you wish you had learned later or earlier in life so that you could do it later in life. For me, I want to say for sure learning guitar. I had the chance to learn guitar and I just never stuck with it, man. I was frustrated because I thought about, okay, I can play piano and that means I should be good at this. And that means the fingers are very similar in terms of like the fingering, like my hands go like this because my hands go like this on piano. And man, like I didn't stick with it and I kept getting frustrated. So I learned like 4 chords and stopped. And you all know how hard it is to learn things later in life. So I really wish I'd stuck with guitar. I could still learn it now. This month, if I was, I could push myself, I could probably. I'm nervous even saying it out loud. Like, that's probably why I need to do it. Cause like if I could pluck out another chord by the end of this month, it would be a miracle. Like I would like celebrate so much if I could get another chord down. So I'm curious in the comments, if you have a skill that you wish you had learned earlier in life. Right here, we have a great tip for buying the book, The One Thing Today. Lots of gems and nuggets here. Thank you so much. And yes, the one thing was I had been meaning to read that for a long time, and I didn't until, like I said, like maybe this year I finally went and got the audiobook. And it basically echoed everything I already knew because I actually use a quote from that book inside one of my signature talks about the fact that that's why people should join the membership, because I think it's 77%. You have a 77% greater chance of achieving your goals if you write them down, one, and then two, share them with somebody else. Which is why inside the membership, I always say, hey, after you've set a goal for this month as a creator challenge, you have to come back and post about it. You have to share it because it's literally me saying, I want to boost your chances of reaching this goal by 77% just by saying it and telling someone. Because that accountability thing that God kind of wired us for, because remember, God wired us for connection, God wired us for a relationship, God wired us to work in community. That's the way we're built. It's why we had the disciples. It's why we had the church. It's why all the things that God built are in the realm of relationship with Him. And like, I want to get super deep, but even God, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, relationship, Trinity. So once you tell other people, you're actually activating the force that will allow you to get the job done and do the thing that you say you're going to do. And which is why I'm saying to everyone that's trying to do a new skill in July, you got to tell somebody and you got to be open with it. And you got to say, hey, hold me accountable. If I don't do this, that's fine, but tell me about it. Like, don't just hold it to yourself. You got to tell people about it. So my skill that I'm not saying I'm going to do this in July. I am saying that I wish I had done guitar earlier in life. And I would love to know from you as well, what skill do you wish you had done? And the bonus for especially our 360 members is, are you going to go ahead and try it in the month of July? You got 21 days left. Okay, 21 days is what it takes to build a habit. So 21 days to jump into that different skill. Maybe it's a skill that's similar to something you already do. Maybe it's adding on a layer of painting, adding on a layer of filmmaking, a skill that you really haven't like mastered to the point that you really feel that you can master it. And you're like, okay, I'm just going to spend 10 more minutes a day, 10 more minutes a week, 1 hour more a week. And I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to do more of it because I want to steward the gift that God gave me and I want to try something new. And that is the challenge for all of our God and Gigs 360 members. And of course, outside, everybody that is watching, I would love to see what you guys think for the skill that you would like to develop in July. All right. We literally are landing the plane right on time. So I am not even going to worry about doing the last stinger. Just going to go quickly to our last slide. The prescriptions. Join the 360 community. That's what I believe it would bless you, would help you. You would join Manuel and Nita and Kimberly and Simony and Linda and oh gosh, I mean, again, every time I start doing names, I feel like I'm going to leave somebody out that's like been so active in the community. So everybody, you guys belong there. If you're watching this, let me just be honest. I've said this to all the podcast guests, to be straight up with you. Podcast guests, I always realize like you are literally part of our tribe. Like it is not about the money. It is about the relationship. It's about the alignment. The alignment that I feel. And by the way, I've joined other communities as well because I never want to be hypocritical about this. So I am not just leading my own community. I joined other podcasting communities, Christian creator communities, membership communities, because I know that the best power of anything is when you join hands, where 2 or 3 walk together, right? That is the biblical thing that 1 can put 1,000 to flight, but 10 can put 10,000 to flight. That is a biblical principle that just continues to be true. So, once again, I recommend you please join us at God and Gigs 360. I saw a note here. Let me grab this real quick and I went away. Hold up, give me a second. Come here. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm gonna cry a little bit. All right, let me stop this so this pops up correctly so it shows entirely. I joined the God of Gigs community after reading your devotionals on YouVersion. This community you created is so different than every community, Christian or otherwise. I highly recommend. Oh my gosh. The doors of the church are open. My gosh, God bless you. This is literally like I can't even I have no words. Podcaster that has no words. I, I'm so grateful. So grateful. Thank you. This is why I'm doing this. Um, and to be straight up with you, it's what I wish I had. It's what I wish I had when I was really floundering at the beginning of my career, floundering to kind of figure out the church thing. I'm not even get into the whole church hurt. It wasn't necessarily church hurt. It was just church confusion. Like, how do I figure out how to kind of navigate? Should I play gigs? Should I not play gigs? How am I trying to be a professional? Am I not trying to be a professional? Am I being too worldly by promoting myself? And I was just, and there again, I'm not the only community that does this. We are just called, as I just mentioned about the podcasting, I'm called to do a certain thing and I'm obedient to that specific thing right now. Will it be a million, billion seller? Who cares? I'm serving the community that God has called me to serve to the best of my ability. And that is why I believe you should be building your platform, career, whatever, to the best of your ability as God gives you grace so that you can follow his lead and serve the people that he's called you to serve with your creative gift that he gave you. That's it. And again, God bless the thank you, Jesus, that we have multiple people who are following their own call, who, just like with churches, there's the Baptist and the Pentecostal and and everyone can find a place in the body of Christ and in the kingdom of God that fits their personality and their unique design. That is really what the kingdom is all about. So if we all do that, and we can do that in a way that allows us to serve our communities and then serve the world in the mainstream arts, entertainment, and content creation space, which is where I focus, then we're going to continue to bless the world, influence the world for the kingdom, and live fulfilling lives. So all of that to say, thank you. God bless you. That absolutely means the world to me. And I think I have one more comment here. Wait, I just did that one. She said, I can't go down. One more. Hello. There we go. Ditto. I was looking for simplicity and integrity. Found, that was a word. Simplicity and integrity. Yo, sis. Whoa, that's a word. I'm keeping that. Simplicity and integrity. You know what that reminds me of? And see, I know I'm going over, but now you got me going. I just read First Thessalonians, if I could say it right. And the verse was talking about aspire. Literally this morning, you literally just hit something that God, this is confirmation, that confirmation thing again. I'm probably going to paraphrase it and say it wrong, but aspire to live quiet lives. Yo, aspire to live a quiet life. The Bible is just nuts, man. Because it's literally the opposite. You're aspiring. Usually people say, and I saw it in my commentary, it usually means from the Greek and everything was like aim for a high position. It's just like what the Bible says, be humble, right? Aspire to live a quiet life. As a creator, that is just so beautiful because you don't have to be in everybody's face. You don't have to be in front of everyone. You don't have to be on everybody's Instagram. No, I'm aspiring to do exactly what God called me to do. More or less, no less or no more. No less and no more than what God has called me to do and what he's called me to create. And again, now he will do exceedingly abundantly above all you ask or think, which is why we should always aspire to do more that God can call us to do and to do all that we're able to do, but never in a sense of striving and pushing and hustling for something that we don't need, you know? So it's just that balance of contentment. See, I just went. I didn't know we were going to go there. You took me there. God bless you. Jeremiah, I think it's Jeremiah's baby. I want to make sure I say it right. But yeah, thank you so much. That has been a blessing. I'm going to make sure I see you in the community. I'm going to make sure to tag you, um, so that I can get that comment in there so people can see that, hey, we're representing in the live streams. I'm so glad we still went live at 11 because I wasn't sure again we were going to change the time. But that's all the time we have right now. We got to run. It's been an absolute blessing. One of my favorite live streams to date. If you're watching this, please make sure that you follow, subscribe, and then repost, share it with somebody else. You can always clip it if you need to just clip the section, and we will clip the part about the podcast episode and how you're called to podcast so that you can hear it and watch it on a future podcast. So you will not have to go back to that particular section unless you want to. But we want to make sure everybody that missed this get just that portion about whether God has called you to podcast or not. So that will be available at the God and Gigs Show, godandgigs.com/podcast. Okay, God bless you guys. This has been amazing. Thank you once again for being a part of our Creator Checkup this week. We will not be here next month, Friday. I will be out of town on a church camp with our men's ministry. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to connecting with God, getting with my brothers. So we will not be live next Friday. So I'll see you in 2 weeks. But then again, everything in the podcast, everything is continuing to go. So God and Gigs will roll on, even if we won't be posting for a few days. So until next time, as we say always, continue to become the creator that you were created to be. God bless, and I will see you in 2 weeks on the live stream and hopefully on the podcast next week. God bless.